The House will come to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Gregorio, please call the roll.
Representatives Amabile, Arndt, Bacon, Baisley, Representative Baisley. Representative Baisley is excused. Benavidez, Burnett, Byrd, Bockenfeld, Representative Bockenfeld. Representative Bockenfeld is excused. Bradfield, Caraveo, Carver, Representative Carver, Catlin, Cutter, Doherty, Duran, Escar, Exum,
Good morning, sir.
Froelich, Geithner, Gonzalez Gutierrez, Gray. Representative Gray is excused. Hanks, Harrod. Representative Harrod is excused. Holtorf, Hooten, Representative Hooten, Jackson,
Here.
Judah, Kennedy, Representative Kennedy is excused. Kip, Larson, Montine, Luck, Representative Luck is excused. Lynch, Representative Lynch, McCluskey, Representative McCluskey is excused. McCormick, McKean, McLaughlin,
Present.
Michelson Janae, Mullica, Representative Mullica is excused. Neville, Representative Neville is excused. Ortiz, Pelton, Pico, Ransom, Rich, Ricks,
Present.
Roberts, Sandridge,
Here.
Sirota, Snyder, Soper, Representative Soper is excused. Sullivan, Tipper, Titone, Valdez A. Representative Valdez A is excused. Valdez D. Van Beber, Van Winkle, Weissman, Will, Williams,
Here.
Woodrow, Woog, Young, and Mr. Speaker.
There's a lot of people
Paisley here. Thank you.
there's other people other stakeholders sometimes on their work, mostly on the labor side, it involves Davis Bacon, and so but they also haven't answered yet. So like
Mr. Gregorio.
show your own work. So like I need my I got not only you and all but I need other people to show me and say like whether they support it or not, because I don't want them to say like we haven't looked at it yet and then be against it later. And then it'll die anyway. If they ever complain about it, it'll die later. I just don't want my just have to do that so much. So we're gonna lay it around. there's not strong, there's no strong opposition to it. It's just like we need all the stakeholders and all that good experience. Even if they do say they don't like it, we may do it anyway because the idea, my name's on it. Like it's your bill, but I'm a customer, you know. But we're just trying to get it.
With 60 present, 5 excused, we have a quorum. Representative Doherty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the Journal of Friday, March 12th, 2021 be approved as corrected by the Chief Clerk.
You have heard the motion that the journal be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. It is daylight saving, so we'll test the chamber here. All those in favor say aye.
Thank you.
All those opposed, no.
No.
The ayes clearly have it. The motion is adopted. Announcements and introductions. Representative Michelson Jeanette.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Public and Behavioral Health and Human Services, we will be meeting at 1:30 today in room 112. We will be hearing 4 bills: House Bill 1099, House Bill 1096, House Bill 1094, and House Bill 1035. House Bill 1119 has been laid over to another date. See you there.
Great. Representative Weissman.
Thank you and good morning, Mr. Speaker. This is a calendar announcement for members of the Judiciary Committee and members with bills before Judiciary. As everybody knows, we've had to move things around this week because of the snow. Judiciary will hear all 5 bills that are on our calendar today. We will not do 1165 on adjournment. Instead, we'll add that to our afternoon calendar. So this afternoon, we will hear the following bills in Judiciary in the following order: 1016, 1165, Senate Bill 17, House Bill 1098, House Bill 1201. So those 5 bills will be this afternoon in Judiciary. 1:30 start, room 107 as usual. We are not meeting tomorrow. Thank you.
Representative Hooten.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the Capital Development Committee will not be meeting on Thursday, March 18th. Thank you.
Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Transportation and Local Government, we will not be meeting upon adjournment today. We're going to lay over House Bill 1019 to a later date. We will be meeting this afternoon for the date for the bills that are on the calendar: House Bill 1056, 1132, and 1127. But we will not be meeting upon adjournment today. Thank you.
Representative Mollica.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, you'll see on your desk, there was a booklet put on your desk, 100 nurses for 100 legislators. It's a way that the Colorado Nurses Association is reaching out to our legislators. It's obviously been a really tough year for nurses, and it's a way that we want to try to interact with our legislators and a way to honor our nurses as well. You'll see on the back as well, we're going to have a Nurses Day here at the Capitol on Monday, April 5th, and so I just want to place that in your calendars. I'll talk to you more about it when we get closer to it. But Monday, April 5th, we're going to have a little presentation out on the West Steps, so we can honor our nurses and make sure that we know that we're thinking about them during this difficult time that they've gone through. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Mollica. I have a quick announcement. Representative Kipp will replace Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez on Public and Behavioral Health and Human Services Committee today only. Representative Wantine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, because of snow day, the Health and Insurance Committee will not be meeting tomorrow. We will be moving the one bill we had on the calendar to next Wednesday, and we do not have anything on the calendar for today. So we get a snow week from Health and Insurance. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I just want to congratulate Centauri Falcon High Schools for their 2A state championship wrestling championship this past weekend. Congratulations.
Congratulations. We have a tribute next. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Folks, how many people in this room went out and shoveled snow? That is all the hands. How many went and helped their neighbors shovel snow? How many people wanted to cook dinner after that? All the hands go down. Folks, today is Dine Out Day for Colorado, and I said I would come up and speak a little bit about this. We have spent a lot of time talking about how we help this state get out of the economic downturn that has been imposed on it. And one of the big ways, folks, is to either go out to eat or order in. And to be honest, this is the very people we talk about all the time trying to help. The folks who are living paycheck to paycheck, tip to tip, and we have every need in this room to send that message out, to go and order out, go dine in somewhere, support our restaurants in this state as much as you possibly can. Because even though we feel like, okay, everything is moving along, there are still capacity restrictions. There are still people who do not get to go to work or do not get to earn what they have been historically earning. So do everything you can. Today is Dine Out Day in the state of Colorado, and Dine Out now means so many new things, including have somebody bring that food to your house, tip them well. I say again, tip them well. And remember that this is how we can help the folks who need help the most. So go dine out.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I made this announcement last week. Just want to remind you, check your emails for an invite from Alliance Colorado. The Intellectual Development Disabilities Awareness Day is actually going to be March 25th from 12:30 to 1. It will be virtual. The reason I'm saying that this week is you need to RSVP with them by March 18th, which is Thursday. So check your emails. Return your RSVP by March 18th. They will have a lunch delivered to your office, and that way you can still take part in one of the most exciting fun days at the Capitol.
Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a tribute I would like read.
Members, we have a tribute.
State of Colorado, the House of Representatives convened in the 73rd General Assembly hereby pays sincere tribute to the Leadville Irish miners. The Irish potato famine, or the Great Hunger as it was known, occurred during the years of 1845 to 1852. By the early 1880s, Leadville, Colorado had the largest Irish community between the West Coast and Mississippi River. 3,000 Irish-born, along with another 3,000 second-generation Irish, made up nearly 20% of Leadville's population at that time. The Irish occupied the bottom rung of the social ladder in Leadville. The vast majority of working men worked in the mines or performed other forms of manual labor. The Irish formed one of the first labor unions in Colorado. The Knights of Labor went on strike in 1880 and again in 1896. Martial law was declared both times, with the Colorado National Guard coming in to halt the strike. The Irish built Annunciation Catholic Church, St. Vincent's Hospital, and St. Mary's School, all still standing. The silver market crashed in 1890 and the mines closed. The Irish left town for other work. They were forced to leave behind over 1,400 unmarked graves in the Catholic pauper section of the cemetery. The average age of the 1,400 was 23 years, and 48% of the total were children under the age of 12. The city of Leadville is in the process of erecting an Irish Miners Memorial with plans that Phase 1 be completed in September of 2021. The House of Representatives wish to pay tribute to this endeavor and to honor and remember those buried in the unmarked graves. On request of Representative Tom Sullivan, given this 16th day of March, 2021, State Capitol, Denver.
Representative Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess that's one of the perks of being down here. You get to tell fascinating stories that, I had never heard before. I've got a shelf full of Irish history books. I've read them all. I know all the kings and queens and the druids, and I know the battles we've been through and all of those different things, but I never knew this story about Leadville and what had happened up there. As I stated in there, the famine, we lost over a third of the population of the island of Ireland during the potato famine of 1845 to 1852. And it's not because we didn't have crops. We did have crops. We had some of the most fruitful times ever, but we had to export all of the food back to England. I mean, we talked last year about genocide. This was genocide by the British government to try to kill off the Irish. Over 1 million of them died in Ireland, and another 1 million were left the island to head to the United States and to Canada. The Atlantic Ocean is 3 inches higher from all of the Irish bodies that are at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean that came over on the coffin ships. The people were dying, and they just dumped them over. So that's something that we should, be aware of. And the Irish government was very aware of that. They wanted to try to find out where the Irish went, after this time. So they've been very involved, and we saw that, they ended up, there in Leadville. So they have been involved with this memorial being built. They can never really have St. Patrick's Day parades there because they're under snow. So they generally have their St. Patrick's Day celebrations in September. So that's why in September they're going to have this memorial erected and talked about. And I really can't wait until the snow melts and it gets warmer and I get a chance to go up there and see what that's all about. So thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Representative Sullivan. Representative Gray.
Just briefly, as the son-in-law of John McDermott and the son-in-law of Patricia Grady, who was O'Grady before she came to Ellis Island, her family, y'all can sit down, this is just me talking about my family, and the husband of who was formerly Catherine Marie McDermott, I echo all the sentiments regarding the contributions of the Irish to our country. Thank you.
Great. Any further announcements or introductions? Seeing none, Majority Leader Eskar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Due to the inclement weather, the House did not convene yesterday, so the calendar for Monday, March 15th is now the calendar for today, Tuesday, March 16th. The following bills will be on the calendar for third reading this morning: Senate Bill 90, Senate Bill 68, House Bill 1076, House Bill 1097, House Bill 1164, House Bill 1123, and House Bill 1130. And following third reading, the following bills will be on the calendar for general order's second reading this morning: House Bill 1047, House Bill 1052, House Bill 1131, House Bill 1117, House Bill 1114, House Bill 1160, House Bill 1130, House Bill 1190, House Bill 1179, House Bill 1072, House Bill 1055, House Bill 1109. Members, basically, we're following Monday's calendar, but I had to say that all into the record. So,
Thank you, Majority Leader Eskar. That brings us to our first order of business, which is third reading of bills. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of the Senate Bill 90.
Senate Bill 21-090 by Senator Smallwood, also Representative Hooton, concerning the renewal of a small group health benefit plan issued to an employer that no longer meets the definition of small employer after the small group plan was first issued.
Seeing no further discussion on Senate Bill 90, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 90 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine. Madam Majority Leader. Daylight savings.
somebody should do something about that. I move Senate Bill 90 on third reading and final passage.
That has now been properly moved. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 90 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Those members online, Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Exum votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 60 aye votes, no votes, and 5 excused, Senate Bill 90 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Exum, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Senate Bill 68.
Senate Bill 68 by Senators Gardner and Lee, also Representatives Soper and Snyder, concerning the enactment of the Colorado Revised Statutes 2020 as the positive and statutory law of the state of Colorado.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Senate Bill 68 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 68 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Sandridge votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Exum votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 49 aye votes, 11 no votes, and 5 excused, Senate Bill 68 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1076.
House Bill 1076 by Representatives McCluskey and Will, also Senators Donovan and Heisey, concerning carpooling service internet applications and in connection therewith requiring that application owners or operators register with the Department of Transportation.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1076 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1076 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Sandridge votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Exum votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Representative, please close the machine. With 45 aye votes, 15 no votes, and 5 excused, House Bill 1076 is passed. Co-sponsors. Representative Exum, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1097.
House Bill 1097 by Representatives Young and Pelton, also Senator Fields, concerning recommendations from the Colorado Behavioral Health Task Force in connection therewith establishing a behavioral health administration.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1097 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1097 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open up the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Sandridge votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Exum votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 52 aye votes, 8 no votes, and 5 excused, House Bill 1097 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative Jackson, Representative Exum, Representative Ricks, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1164.
House Bill 1164 by Representatives Escar and Garnett, also Senators Zenzinger and Fenberg, concerning reductions in the property tax credits that apply to school districts' total program mill levies for purposes of funding the Public School Finance Act of 1994.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1164 on Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1164 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1164 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Sandridge votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Exum votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 40 aye votes, 20 no votes, and 5 excused, House Bill 1164 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative McLaughlin, Exum, Jackson, Ricks, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1060. Oh, wait a minute. Was that wrong? Sorry. That was wrong. Please don't do that. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1123.
House Bill 1123 by Representatives Michelson, Janae, and Larson, also Senators Fields and Smallwood, concerning a CAPS check for substantiated cases of mistreatment of an at-risk adult.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1123 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1123 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further debate, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Exum votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 60 aye votes, 0 no votes, and 5 excused, House Bill 1123 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Representative McLaughlin, Williams, Jackson, Exum, Ricks, co-sponsor. Please close the machine. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1130.
House Bill 1130 by Representatives Michelson, Janae, and Bradfield, also Senators Colker and Gardner, concerning expanding the Community Transition Specialist Program.
Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 1130 on third reading, final passage.
The question before us is the adoption of House Bill 1130 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Sandridge votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Exum votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Please close the machine. With 56 aye votes, 5 no votes, and 4 excused, House Bill 1130 is adopted. Co-sponsors. McLaughlin and Jackson co-sponsor. Please close the machine. That brings us to second reading of bills, general orders. Representative Weissman. See no objection. You have heard the motion. Representative Weissman will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, bills will be read by title unless there's a request for a reading at length. Committee amendments will not be read because they're printed and in the bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen up here and on everyone's iPads. Bills will be laid over on motion of the majority leader or assistant majority leader. And the code rule is definitely relaxed because the steam heat is out of control today. With that, would Mr. Gregorio please read the title of House Bill 1040? Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1047 until after House Bill 1114.
Okay, seeing no objection, 1047 will lay over as requested. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of House Bill 1052.
House Bill 1052 by Representative McKean concerning the inclusion of pumped hydroelectric energy generation in the definition of eligible energy resources for purposes of meeting Colorado's renewable energy standard.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1052 in the committee report.
To the committee report.
In the committee, we talked a lot about how this energy is produced to pump the water back uphill. This is a system by which there's a higher reservoir, a lower reservoir. We create hydroelectricity in the downflow, and then it has to get back uphill. So we amended the bill to make sure that it complies with all of the stakeholders' concerns, that it is not situated on a natural waterway, that it does not harm wildlife, and also that we do not combust fossil fuel to pump that water back uphill. I think it's a satisfactory amendment.
Thank you. Is there further discussion to the committee report on 1052? Seeing none, the question is the passage of the committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. The ayes have it. The committee report to 1052 is passed. To the bill, Rep. McKean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So folks, this bill is one that we've played with a few times before, but truly What we saw back on Valentine's Day when we had concerns about power generation is that we need rampable hydroelectricity when we need it the most. This is basically a giant battery, and it is a giant battery that exists in a place where we can use it, we can ramp it, we can get it online in a big hurry. This is a good bill. This is something that we've been working toward years. I urge an aye vote.
Is there further discussion on 1052? Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm proud to support this bill. In the simpler times, many of us got to go out and travel other people's districts and learn more about where other people came from. And I went to a fantastic hydroelectric facility in Representative Catlin's district and learned a lot about hydro and what it means in their community. And this is something that we can agree on. There are no emissions whatsoever. And it's an energy source that is available in places that isn't available everywhere, but is really important where it is available. And so I would urge an aye vote.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on 1052? Seeing none, the question is the passage of House Bill 1052. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, the ayes have it. 1052 is passed, but clearly daylight savings is having its toll. Will Mr. Gregorio please read the title of House Bill 1131?
House Bill 1131 by Representatives Amabile and Catlin, also Senator Winter, concerning governance requirements for cooperative electric associations.
Rep. Amabile or Rep. Catlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move HB 1131 and the Energy and Environment Committee report.
Thank you. To the committee report.
In the committee, we made a few minor modifications to get all the stakeholders on board, which we succeeded in doing, and I believe there was no opposition to the bill.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the committee report to 1131? Seeing none, the question is the passage of the Energy and Environment Committee report to 1031. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. A couple of ayes have it. The committee report is passed. To the bill, Representative Amabile or Catlin.
Okay, I move HB 1131. The bill creates transparency and helps members of rural electric co-ops have more say over the pricing and the type of power that they're getting. This is a great bill for rural America and rural Colorado.
Representative Catlin, to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Likewise, sir.
Members, I just wanted to bring your attention down to the well. As you can notice, Representative Amabile and I are twins. You can't tell the difference between us, can you? That's why we made such a good pair on running this bill. This piece of legislation does help rural Colorado because it allows members of the co-op to be able to look into what's going on in their communities and with their power generators and their distributors. It gives people an opportunity, and we hope that this will increase the number of voters there will be in these elections on REAs. You know, we talk about REAs as being out in the country, but here in urban Colorado, you have them too. This is something that should go a long ways in helping the governance of how we get our electricity, what we pay for it, what the sources are. It gives you and our constituents an opportunity to see what's going on in their REAs. So this is a good bill. Vote yes.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on House Bill 1131? Seeing none, the question is the passage of House Bill 1131. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. That's more like it. 1131 is
Thank
passed.
you very much.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1117 until tomorrow, March 17th.
Seeing no objection, 1117 will lay over as requested by the Majority Leader. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of House Bill 1114.
House Bill 1114 by Representatives McCormick and Bradfield, also Senator Jaquez Lewis, concerning the provision of internet service by a school district to enable individuals associated with the district to access the school district network.
Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1114 and the Transportation and Local Government Committee report.
Thank you. To the committee report. Sorry, Rep. Bradfield, go ahead. Rep. Redfield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the overview, in the committee report, there were two amendments. They were to add the word exclusively and convey that the networks are not open for public use. I move, please, to include the Board of Cooperative Services, or BOCES School District. Thank you.
Okay, Rep. McCormick to the committee report.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. That was the committee report.
Okay, is there further discussion on the committee report to 1114? Seeing no discussion, the question is the passage of the TLG committee report to House Bill 1114. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it. The committee report is passed. To the bill, Rep. McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill clarifies that a school district providing internet services to school-owned networks and for teachers and students to access remote learning is not restricted by current law. This opens an opportunity for school districts to go further to help bridge the digital divide and to facilitate remote learning. It did pass unanimously out of committee, and I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on House Bill 1114? Seeing no discussion, the question is the passage of House Bill 1114. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it. 1114 is adopted. Okay, that brings us back to House Bill 1047. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of House Bill 1047.
House Bill 1047 by Representative Kennedy concerning the drawing of voting districts by county governments.
Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1047 and the State Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With your permission, I'll start a little high level on the bill before I talk about what specifically we did in the committee. This bill is about how county commissioners go about redrawing their commissioner districts. 3 sessions ago, when we had a split legislature, we got unanimous support out of this building to refer 2 measures to the ballot that became amendments Y and Z that then passed with 71% of the vote. These resolutions represented a bipartisan agreement on how to go about doing redistricting so it doesn't give a partisan advantage to either side. It creates a fair process. Those resolutions together did cover the state legislature, they covered the federal congressional districts, and by extension, they covered the CU Board of Regents and the State Board of Education. But there's one partisan elected office elected by individual districts in Colorado that was not covered in those resolutions, and it was county commissioner districts. This bill applies the consensus provisions from Amendments Y and Z to the counties that elect some number of their commissioners by individual districts rather than county-wide. I did my best to scale this down to make sure that it thought about county budgets and their time constraints. And I'm proud to say that with the amendments that I've offered today, I've achieved the neutrality of Arapahoe County, El Paso County, Weld County, and CCI. So I'm very excited about the work that we've gotten to on this bill, and I believe it's going to be a good step forward. The committee report itself reflects a number of amendments that were made to bring about that compromise, and I will go ahead and move Amendment L5 to the committee report and ask that it be displayed.
Okay, thank you, Rep. Kennedy. And members, we're getting L5 up on the screen. This was previously distributed electronically. Rep. Kennedy, the amendment is in focus. Please proceed to L5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. L5 just continues to fine-tune some of the work that we did in committee to make sure that we had all the counties on board with what we were trying to do. Specifically, the counties had asked that we allow them to use an advisory committee as part of their redistricting process. And this amendment just tightens up the provisions about the advisory committee to ensure that there aren't backroom deals happening and that all communication between staff, advisory committee, and the Board of County Commissioners happens in the light of day for everyone to see. I ask for your support.
Okay, thank you. Is there further discussion on L5, which is to the committee report? Seeing no further discussion, the question is the passage of Amendment L5. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. L5 is passed. We are back to the CVMA committee report. Rep. Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I already described the committee report, and I ask for your support. And I guess I move the committee report as amended.
Okay, is there further discussion to the committee report on 1047? Seeing none, the question is the passage of the State Affairs Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. The committee report is passed. We are to the bill.
Oh, did I say support?
Okay, Rep. Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize. Representative Buckenfeld was correcting me on one thing. If I may have misspoken, I apologize. I have the neutrality of the counties I mentioned before. They are not in a support position, but Weld, El Paso, and Arapahoe County, as well as CCI, are neutral on the bill. So I apologize if I misspoke earlier. I have two more amendments. I will move Amendment L7 and ask that it be displayed.
Okay, one sec. Okay, the amendment is on the screen. Rep. Kennedy, please proceed to L7.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This amendment represents one issue that was unresolved at the time of committee, which is that we passed a bill last year that dealt with incarcerated populations and how they were counted for the purpose of redistricting. The issue is that there was going to be a slight delay in how we process that data. So what this amendment does is it allows the counties to begin their work of redistricting based on the direct data they receive from the census. However, by the time they approve the final maps, they must then go about using the adjusted data that accounts for incarcerated populations. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Is there further discussion to L7 to House Bill 1047? Seeing none, the question is the passage of L7. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it. L7 is passed. Rep. Kennedy, to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L6 and ask that it be displayed.
Okay, L6 is displayed and in focus. Please proceed to L6.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, this is my last amendment, and this is an amendment for the other 59 counties of Colorado. They are under a current statutory deadline of September 30th to complete their redistricting process. However, we're not really expecting to even receive the census data until September 30th, so this extends their window of time until December 29th. I ask for an aye vote.
Okay, thank you. Is there further discussion on L6? Seeing none, the question is the passage of L6 to House Bill 1047. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The ayes have it. L6 is passed. We are back to the bill, House Bill 1047. Is there further discussion on House Bill 1047? Rep. Geithner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So members, I'm from El Paso, and I do appreciate the amendments, some of the amendments that were offered. And yes, I just wanted to come and acknowledge, I think El Paso is in a neutral position, but I will be a no on the bill. And I say that I'll be a no because I think that there's a lot here that has to do with local control. And so I still look at it, even with the amendments, even with the work that has been done, that there is still, I don't want to say necessarily an affront to the clerks, but I think this is really the domain of what we elect our clerk and recorders to do. So I can't be a yes on this. I think that our clerks have a big job in front of them that they take incredibly seriously. And I think that they do it knowing that they are doing it to represent the people of their counties. And quite frankly, we've put them there. And I know ours out of El Paso, Chuck Browerman, is someone that I think takes this particular role and duty responsibility of his charge very seriously. So I just wanted to come up here and kind of mention a little bit about that the neutrality of where El Paso is and that sort of a thing. I'll let if there's other reps that need to talk about their counties and such, would love to hear from that too. But I will be a no on the bill, and just wanted to make sure that I made a few remarks, I guess, as it pertains to my thoughts on 1047.
Okay, Rep. Buckenfeld to House Bill 1047.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Likewise, sir.
Folks, I used to be a county commissioner in Arapahoe County, served there for 12 years ago, and I'm also a no vote on this particular bill because it's not necessary. This bill only impacted 3 counties, Weld County, Arapahoe County, and El Paso County. Weld County is home rule, so I think they got a pretty good argument that the bill won't have a whole lot of impact on them, but let me talk a little bit about Arapahoe County, because I know something about that. I was on the Arapahoe County Board 10 years ago when the last redistricting took place. All the elements in this bill were already adhered to by Arapahoe County when we redistricted 10 years ago. So what are we trying to fix? At that time, we had 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats on the Arapahoe County Board. If we were gerrymandering, we did a pretty poor job of it. Because today, we have 3 Democrats and 2 Republicans. And guess what? This redistricting that's coming up that would have been handled by the Arapahoe County Commissioners is still a non-issue in Arapahoe County. I haven't gotten any complaints, Republicans or Democrats. And if there was an issue in gerrymandering in Arapahoe County 10 years ago, the Democratic Party would have had the opportunity to file a lawsuit. They chose not to. At any time, you can file a lawsuit and you can push this case to district court, and there's more than enough case law and issues out there, and I know because our county attorneys were worried about them, to make sure that we didn't violate any of the tenets or any of the issues that have been established by the state or the federal government and that type of thing. I'm going to give you one other example why it's important to have commissioners who actually represent a district in very large counties as to why it's necessary for them to have substantial input in that redistricting, because they know those community of interest, they know those minority communities, and they know those districts better than any other commissioners or folks or committee that you can appoint in that district. The last redistricting, there were several maps that were provided. I had to point out to the clerk and recorder the communities of interest that were being divided up and had to be corrected. Is that gerrymandering? No. It's protecting my constituents and representing them to the best of my ability. Do you know why? Do you know why we have commissioners who represent a district in Arapahoe County? Because the citizens of Arapahoe County voted in the requirement that you would have a commissioner who represents their specific district. The people have spoken in these counties. If you're in Weld County, they had a charter commission that set up their home rule charter that said that their commissioners should represent that district. So, what are we trying to fix here? We know one thing for sure. I can tell you that the county commissioners at Arapahoe County know how to count votes, and they're neutral. But they also said this drives up cost. The state isn't backfilling that cost. Are those counties going to get their costs covered? I mean, that's the least they can do if they're going to drive up cost and how we redistrict in those counties. What it boiled down to, this particular bill had nothing to do with really Weld and Arapahoe County, but it had a whole lot to do with El Paso at the time. It was an anti-El Paso County bill. I'm sorry, I'm going to call it what it is. And maybe El Paso might be neutral now. I'm sure they counted the votes. But that's what the bill is. If this is something that needed to be fixed by these three counties, we should have a representative from one of those three counties up here trying to fix the issue, not somebody outside of those three counties. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, I ask for a no vote on this bill.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1047? Seeing no, Rep. Van Bepper, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would also like to echo the sentiments of Representative Bachenfeld. More than likely, the kinds of legislation that we've seen come down the pike at our various counties are bills and legislation that end up putting the counties in the crosshairs of the state government. And again, asking counties to pay for something that comes from the legislative level is unacceptable. Our clerk and recorder is highly trusted, and she sets the gold standard for the election processes and for all things in her duties as the Weld County clerk and recorder. I would also say that I believe that this bill creates problematic situations for county clerk and recorders, and that our clerk and recorders are paying the cost for punitive measures brought forward by the state. I'll also call it what it is. Thank you.
So further discussion, Rep. Pico.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in opposition from El Paso County to this bill. The commissioners may have gone neutral, but it still is an anti-El Paso County bill. That's what it is. I echo the comments of Representative Bockenfeld and Representative Geithner. This is aimed to fix a problem that doesn't exist. We don't need to have the state legislature direct how to district local jurisdictions. Leave El Paso County alone. Vote no.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1047? Seeing none, the question is the passage of House Bill 1047. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Ayes have it. 1047 is passed. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to House Bill 1060.
House Bill 1060 by Representatives Gonzalez Gutierrez and Judah concerning the certification process for the purpose of application for U non-immigrant status.
Madam Assistant Majority Leader. Okay, we'll go to Rep. Judah first. Rep. Judah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to move HB 1060 in the committee report.
To the committee report. Madam Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the committee, members, we made a few amendments, really to work with the district attorneys with regards to the dates and the timeframes due to COVID. And so we made some amendments to address that, gave them some time, knowing that they have a lot of backup in the courts. And some of the other language that we changed was just more clarifying and defining different terminology. I ask for an aye vote on the committee report.
Okay, is there further discussion on the committee report to House Bill 1060? Seeing none, the question is the passage of the committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it. The committee report is passed. To the bill, Representative Judah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, HB 1060 will address the inconsistent policies in U visa certification agencies across the state regarding the certification process that is just one step to be taken for a victim to be eligible to apply for a U visa. Currently, victims have experienced discrepancies among local jurisdictions in handling these requests. This bill will ensure that all victims in Colorado are treated fairly and that those who are making requests for U visa certifications are subject to uniform statewide policies and protocol.
Okay, is there further discussion? I think Rep. Carver had her hand up. Rep. Carver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is very similar to a bill that we saw last year, and unfortunately still has a provision that is the reason I voted no. There is much in this bill that is worthy. So the bottom line is that there is this provision in our system of federalism where a U visa is authorized under federal law. And the federal government, quite properly, says that it is the local jurisdiction who has to make two findings. Doesn't guarantee the U visa, but it makes the person eligible for consideration by the federal government of a U visa. Those two considerations that the local jurisdiction makes is, first of all, are they a victim of a crime that is within the realm of what the federal law contemplates? Second of all, is the victim cooperating with law enforcement? And there's federal regulations and guidance, policy guidance, on what constitutes cooperation. This is where the difficulty comes in from my point of view. In the current bill, it is structured to say that the local certifying entity, could be DA, could be law enforcement, could be some other authorized state agencies that do criminal investigations, They say it's structured in such a way that they must certify. They must certify that the victim has cooperated unless there is something in the case folder specifically documenting that they have not. And in talking with some of the witnesses that testified on this bill, it's the equivalent to a rebuttable presumption of cooperation, even though there's absolutely nothing in the folder saying that. So you could have a case that has absolutely no evidence in the folder that the witness cooperated, and yet the local agency official would have to certify under this bill that the victim did cooperate. So, I find that problematic. I think if the local agencies are going to do their jobs properly and make findings of fact, finding that it's a qualifying crime, finding that the victim cooperated, that the bill should be structured in a way that they're making that finding based upon some affirmative facts, positive facts to support that, to support it. A basis to make that finding, not the absence of facts. So that is why I am a no vote, despite the fact that I otherwise find many other parts of this bill to be worth supporting.
Okay, is there further discussion on House Bill 1060? Seeing none, the question is the passage of House Bill 1060. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Ayes have it, 1060 is passed. Mr. Gregor, let's see, Madam? No. All right, Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to Madam Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1103 until Friday, March 19th.
Okay, seeing no objection, that bill will lay over as requested. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of House Bill 1090.
House Bill 1090 by Representative Valdez A., also Senator Gonzalez, concerning certain criminal marijuana offenses.
Rep. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1090 and the Judiciary Report.
To the committee report.
We closed a few loopholes that we found in the bill through the work that we did to ensure that the statutes regarding minors in possession were still covered. Good amendments, also made a small technical fix.
Okay, thank you. Is there further discussion on the committee report to House Bill 1090? Seeing none, the question is the passage of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Committee report is passed. To the bill, Rep. Valdez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So 1090 basically allows for a simplification of the process of sealing convictions for marijuana crimes. It really helps us to get into compliance with the will of the voters who passed Amendment 64 in 2012 with a large margin of support. This allows us to help people get back on track with their lives, become employable, make it easier to get housing. This is a great bill. I'd urge a yes vote. Thank you.
Okay, is there further discussion on House Bill 1090? Seeing none, the question is the passage of House Bill 1090. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it, 1090 is passed. Madam Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1179 until Friday, March 19th.
Okay, seeing no objection, 1179 will lay over as requested until Friday, March 19th. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of House Bill 1072.
House Bill 1072 by Representative Froelich, also Senator Fields and Jaquez Lewis, concerning equal access to services related to out-of-home placements.
Rep. Froelich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is a pleasure to serve with you.
Likewise, Rep. Froelich. Please proceed.
I move House Bill 1072 and the Public and Behavioral Health and Human Services Committee report.
To the committee report from the committee with the longest name in the legislature. Rep. Froelich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. the committee moved past 2 amendments to bring the counties and the county placement services for adoption and foster on board, as well as a technical amendment brought by the Department of Human Services.
Thank
And
you.
I
Is
ask for a yes
there
vote on the
further
committee report.
discussion on the committee reports? Seeing none, the question is the passage of the committee report from the Public and Behavioral Health and Human Services Committee. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Ayes have it. The committee report is passed. To the bill, Rep. Froelich.
Thank you. This bill, Equal Access for Services for Out-of-Home Placements, affirms the rights of foster youth to live in an affirming home. During National Foster Care Month in 2015, our president said, "All young people, regardless of what they look like, which religion they follow, who they love, or the gender they identify with, deserve the chance to dream and grow in a permanent home." And that is what House Bill 1072 does, and I ask for an aye vote because the fact remains that LGBTQ youth are overrepresented in the foster care system, and they deserve loving and affirming homes.
Okay, Rep. Larson to House Bill 1072.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Likewise, sir. Please proceed.
Members, today I rise very, very conflicted. And first of all, I do want to commend the bill sponsor because in my reading of this bill, it does 2 very distinct things. And the things that the bill sponsor spoke about, providing protections to youth in the foster and adoptive care system, making sure that they're placed in culturally appropriate homes, making sure that LGBTQ youth are placed in homes that are affirming and that are going to be positive growth environments, are absolutely things that we should be enshrining in law and things that I celebrate. And if this bill did that, just that, I would be an enthusiastic supporter. Probably would have fought to have my name added as a co-prime. The secondary thing that this bill does is what gives me pause, and frankly is what really has caused me to lose some sleep over recent nights. And that is the provisions of the bill that would deny state funding to agencies that are currently in operation for adoption services, but because of a sincerely held religious belief, do not do placements with same-sex couples. Now, you know, that's an ethical issue, and I agree, and it's one that, you know, I honestly hope and pray that a lot of these agencies will start to do placements with same-sex couples, because when I look at the adoption landscape, the priority should be placing children with homes. And as long as there's any children as a ward of the state, if there are loving homes that want them, I think that's what our agency and our adoption policy in this state should be oriented toward. But my concern is that this bill, as written, would disrupt long-established providers in this space. You know, historically, religiously affiliated organizations have been very big players in the adoptions world. And we have supported that as a state because they do work that has a direct relationship to the interests of the state. And under this bill, if we were to take away, for instance, you know, the Catholic Church or another religiously affiliated organization's ability to get state funding, I just worry that that would disrupt the adoption ecosystem as it currently exists, and potentially reduce the number of kids that end up getting adopted out. And again, I think this is a legitimate point of philosophical disagreement with the bill. So, you know, with that, I do sincerely want to thank the sponsor, and she and I spoke about this at length before committee, and it just ended up that we were a little too far apart to close that gap. I do want to applaud the good that's being done in this bill, because there is a lot of good that is being done, and the protections for youth in our system, the most vulnerable youth, is a great thing that's being added. Unfortunately, there is that provision of the bill that I cannot support, and that will be my reason for a no vote today. But that is not to say that there is not lots of good in this bill. So, thank you, members.
Okay, is there further discussion on House Bill 1072? Seeing none, the question is the passage of House Bill 1072. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. No. The ayes have it. 1072 is passed. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title of House Bill 1055.
House Bill 1055 by Representative Woodrow concerning allowing compensation for a school district board of education by written resolution.
Representative Woodrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to serve with you.
Likewise, sir.
Good morning, my colleagues. It is an honor to stand before you and move House Bill 21-1055 and ask for an aye vote. This is a bill concerning compensation for public school board members. My colleagues, to the surprise of many of our constituents, school board members, by law in Colorado, are unpaid across the state. Colleagues, whatever the original intentions behind our current law, this one-size-fits-all approach isn't working for many communities. Indeed, by prohibiting school boards from paying their members, we've constructed a barrier to entry that has blocked interested and talented people from serving in these critical positions. This bill is all about access. All it does is remove the prohibition under current law for paying school board members. It is entirely optional. In committee, we heard stories about how difficult it is for people of color, especially, to serve for free. By one count, we heard that there are perhaps only 10 black school board members across the entire state. I'd also note that no one here is advocating for anyone to hit it rich by running for school board, so sorry to dash any plans. But just like our own salaries, any compensation decision would go into effect following the next election. Diversity matters, of thought, of political background, of life experience, of race and ethnicity, and yes, of financial condition. This bill takes a big step forward to getting there. I urge a yes vote.
Okay, thank you. Who'd like to go first? Rep. Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, esteemed colleagues. There are many things we do that are volunteer service. Volunteerism is not discriminatory in any way that I'm aware of. When you volunteer, you volunteer. You step forward and volunteer, regardless of race, creed, color, gender, ethnic identity, gender identity, or anything else. So let's be clear about that. I get really frustrated as we do the things we do in this Gold Dome and we try to pin that tail on that donkey when it has no application. So with this particular bill right here, school board members are supposed to volunteer. They're supposed to be members of their community that want to guide and direct the education of the children in their communities. And it's supposed to be voluntary. That is a long-held tradition that works if people choose to volunteer. If you monetize this, now it's going to turn into a job. It's going to be highly sought after for another reason. So people can get a paycheck instead of volunteer to help the youth. When I served on our FFA advisory committee in my hometown, in my school district, in my community, I didn't expect a nickel because I volunteered to guide the program. Now, I know being on a school board is hard, it's laborious. Oftentimes, it's like being a legislator, it's thankless, it's difficult. The compensation may not be there that one would expect. But that's not the point. If you want to volunteer to do anything in this life, step forward, raise your hand, and go do it. But to say there's any level of discrimination or anything else to anybody is ludicrous. So I object to that. I object to the bill and what the bill is trying to do. Because I think now what's going to happen is you're going to turn it into a competitive position that many people are just going to want to do for the paycheck. perhaps, and not, as it is now, as a voluntary service that you merely are stepping up. You're merely stepping up as a volunteer to help your kiddos in your community. Now, it is an elected position, and it does take a campaign to be elected. But I will tell you, I have a real problem with the premise that was mentioned earlier about this bill. I also have a real problem with paying school board members to do that job in our communities.
Okay, is there further discussion on House Bill 1055? Representative Kipp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as many of you know, I was a school board member for 7 years prior to joining the legislature. I just wanted to talk about a few things because I think a lot of people have not served in that role. I think actually 2 of us in here have or are serving in that role. It actually costs a lot of money to be a school board member. If you think about that, we don't get any pay, they don't give us an office, but yet we still have constituents and still have to meet with people. Every time we go and, have our coffee with somebody, there's an expense there. There's hundreds of miles that we drive around our districts that generally are uncompensated. Yeah, we can get mileage if we go out of district, but generally that's not, we don't ask for it. I mean, people are there for the kids. It takes hours and hours and hours a week. There are people who run for school board who don't understand that there's actually a lot more than one meeting a week or one meeting every couple of weeks. And that's because what you have to do is you have a board packet that's typically hundreds of pages that you spend your weekend and a few days reading. There's emails, there's hundreds of emails, there's constituents, there's schools to visit. In a district like mine, there are over 50 schools now. My point is that it takes a lot of time to serve as a school board member, and it's not free. And because of that, the only people who serve on our school board are people who look like me, people who are middle class, people who are able to take the time to do it. I was that volunteer mom in my kids' schools ever since they started school. I started in kindergarten. I actually started in preschool, and I was there a ton of time. So what's wrong with allowing a school district to say, you know what? The job in our district is a lot of work. It takes a lot of hours, and there should be a little bit of compensation on board. Nobody's asking for, there are places like Los Angeles or Florida where school board members make $90,000, $120,000 a year. Nobody's asking for anything like that, at least certainly not that I know of, and if they did, I'm sure their voters would hold them accountable. I'm going to give you an example that on my city council, there are stipends that people are paid about $400 a month to serve on the city council. It's not a well-paying job, but it helps it make it easier. I know people who have not run for school board just because of the cost of childcare. And when you think about it, the people who you want a lot of times serving on your school boards are the people who have kids in the schools who need the childcare. But if they can't afford the childcare to be away from their kids in order to serve on a school board, that's problematic. I'm just going to say there is a lack of diversity on my school board. There has been. We have tried to remedy that. We have tried to recruit people from more challenged demographics, and we have not been successful. I know that in committee it was brought up that perhaps we could just ask the voters for approval to pay school board members in a particular district. Well, sure, you could do that, but in a district like mine, it's going to cost you a few $100,000 just to enter the election and put a measure on the ballot. So the amount that I think most school board members would ask, and again, this is local control, only if your school board asked, not if the school board member was asking for it during their current term. This is just an option for local school boards, so really it's the ultimate in local control. I really hope that you will consider supporting 1055.
Thank you. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So very, very briefly, I've served on a school board. I've volunteered in numerous places. One of the most productive things I ever did was take my kids to school board meetings because I couldn't afford childcare. I served on school boards with people from the minority communities, from single moms who were trying to figure out what to do with their kids. If we couch this in terms of it's only upper middle class people who have time to do this, then we spread a huge falsehood. We spread this attitude that well, they're just leisure hours that we're doing. No, this is work. And I don't support necessarily paying people to do this work because I think that's the great leveler. That's the great leveler between Thompson School District and Poudre School District. Not that we have people who don't commit themselves, because they do. It's just they do it not just for the kids, they do it for their community. They do it for their community in the very best way possible. And I think the system we have now today is working well. And I do not think that we need to pass a law to take care of a problem that does not exist.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1055? Representative Bacon.
Thank you for the comments, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to provide additional perspective to actually shed some light on some problems that actually do exist. I currently sit on a school board. I am single and do not have children, and I had to resign from my job to be able to carry the workload. And so did 3 of my other colleagues. I serve on the school board of Denver Public Schools. Our budget is bigger than the city and county of Denver's. We serve 93,000 students. I do 25 hours a week for school board. I also had a day job in which I tried to convince people to run for office to represent the communities from which they come. And I cannot tell you how many parents I could not get to run for this office because of the costs and the ability, to not be able to do the work because of the time and the costs. The truth of the matter is we just can't lean into a space of one saying that the work of school board is not as valued as other elected positions, that it should be invested in so that we can get the right representation and supportive representation of the work. And I just wanted to be able to share that. Particularly with all of us who are serving currently in an elected role, we take what we do very seriously. Determining curriculum in front of our students is really important. Determining benefits for employees is really important. And part of the testimonies that we heard about this were from other school board members who shared that there are some school districts that do not reflect proportionally their communities because there are actual barriers in being able to serve. So there is something to this. We cannot, and I will say it again, reserve the right to do this work for those who have resources or can cover in different ways. We cannot reserve the right to support our schools to those who are either retired or independently wealthy to be able to do it. And again, I do want to share this experience, but I also understand the role I play. You'll hear from me later on third reading of this, but 3 people on my school board, of the largest one in the state, were not able to do this work. But we all make conscious decisions on behalf of our kids, but it does not cost us all the same. So thank you.
Is there further discussion? Representative Holtorf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Bacon, I'm really glad you came up here because something just happened. She pointed out what I've been talking about for months, if not over a year. And what it is, it's the rural-urban divide. Okay? So there's a different situation in the urban centers. If in fact the workload is, as she mentions, the budget conversations, the requirements are what they are. Okay? Don't throw up your hands and wave, because we have many examples on my side of the rural divide where this happens all the time. and it's overlooked, or not considered, or not understood, or even the intent to understand is not even there. So please, I would ask for tempered emotions at this moment. But I will tell you that that was very impactful, and there are differences. Here's my concern. I don't want school board service to become a job that is sought after for the compensation as this idea moves forward to a level, who knows where it will go, where now it's different than it is today. That's my concern. Maybe there is a way to take care of this issue, particularly in the urban centers where the decisions are so large. And the gravity of the job is much greater than maybe in one of my school districts out in my district, out in rural Colorado. So I offer that consideration. If we work towards a solution, let's work towards a solution that preserves the intent of volunteerism and selfless service in our communities and in our school districts, but still perhaps addresses those considerations. And there may be a way to do that at this time. Thank you.
Is there further discussion on House Bill 1055? Rep. Geithner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So members, I sit on the Education Committee, and we did just hear 1055 last week. And there were, a few unanswered questions that the bill as written obviously led some discussion points on. And so what I wanted to do was maybe offer some things that might help answer some of those questions. And so with that, I will move L003 and ask that it be properly displayed.
Okay, Rep. Geithner, 1 sec. We're getting it on the screen. Okay, L3 is clearly displayed. Please proceed to L3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so members, what L003 does is it simply says that regardless of the direction of this bill, regardless of the direction that maybe school districts may take it, this amendment simply says that, hey, there will be an aggregate amount of information that will be reported back to the legislature through the SMART Act committees that we do, specifically to education. And what it will really do is it'll allow us to kind of see collectively across the state what school districts did it, what school districts didn't, what was the aggregated amount. It just kind of lends a process in which some of the questions that were raised in committees, and I think naturally as we go through this, if there are questions that come to mind, that this process will allow a little bit better understanding, let's say, around this theme. And so with that, I ask for your yes vote on L003 in the sense that it will just provide us as a body with the additional information that a lot of us have questions around.
Okay, the question is L3. Is there further discussion on L3? Representative Woodrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Geithner, for bringing this. I would point out that there are approximately 178 or so school boards, and it's unclear what this would cost. I do appreciate the drive for transparency. If this turns out to be something, Representative, next year that we're saying, my goodness, we just don't have a handle on who's doing what, I would gladly team up with you to increase transparency. But in the meantime, I'd ask for a no vote on the amendment.
Okay, is there further discussion to L3? Rep. Baisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I would ask that we vote yes on this amendment. The challenge that came up in the Education Committee, and I serve on that committee as well, is teacher salaries and the finite amount of funding that we currently have and will continue to have going forward. Any compensation that comes to board members would certainly come out of that district's general fund, and I think it makes a lot of sense for us to be transparent and let the folks all see what that amount is, so that it's not a secret from anyone. I don't see a downside to communicating to everyone what the amount of compensation is for those school board members, especially while the public is looking at compensating everybody within their school district, trying to cover the teachers, to just be able to see what is this costing us as they decide locally in each district whether or not to compensate their school board. So it's just good transparency, good idea. I'd urge a yes vote on this.
Okay, is there further discussion on L3, Rep. Geithner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, members, I come up again. I find an interesting point that was made by the sponsor of the bill, and that is I mean, the amendment is pretty straightforward. It just simply says the department shall include the aggregated amount of compensation provided to school board members. Now, I think a lot of us in here, we've run small businesses, we've done certain things where we look at dollars, we look at cents, we look at figures. And if what we're simply asking is for the various school districts, which are already reporting information back to the department anyways, right? I mean, it's not like this amendment creates a process that doesn't already exist. Our school boards are already reporting back to the department. And furthermore, the SMART Act, the State Measurement and Accountable, Responsive, and Transparent Government Act is already in place. We're already hearing in education through this process to suggest that this would have some sort of a cost that would drive the bill a fiscal note, which it currently doesn't have. I think I would firmly disagree with. We have other bills that have to do with setting up an actual resource library of sorts that talk about that there might be an additional workload on the state. However, there is no fiscal note. So I kind of see this as the exact same way. This is school boards are already reporting the information back to the department. This is one more small piece of information, which is the compensation. They're putting that as a line item out of their budgets. They're sending that to the department. The department then compiles that information as they compile the rest of the information, quite frankly, for the SMART Act. And so this is to say that there would be a nominal or some sort of cost that would drive a fiscal note. I'm not sure that I see it that way. And I just wanted to come up and provide some of my thoughts around that. So again, members, I do ask for a yes on L003.
Okay, is there further discussion on L3? Seeing none, the question is the passage of L3. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Noes have it. L3 is lost. We are back to the bill, 1055. Is there further discussion? Rep. Larson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L005 and ask that it be displayed.
Okay, 1 second, Representative. Okay, L5 is clearly displayed. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So members, this is an amendment that we brought up in committee in education. I did think it was something worth bringing to the body as a whole. So as all of us, I hope, are aware, we are all governed by Amendment 41 because we are paid elected officials in this state. That is the gift ban, amongst several other things. That is a provision of the Colorado State Constitution. If we were to begin paying school board members as elected officials, it seemed proper to me that we would apply those same provisions of Amendment 41 to those school board members, since now they are paid elected officials. So that is what this amendment is getting at. It was offered in committee. We had some discussion about it. It was defeated in committee. However, I think that it is a worthwhile discussion, and there was indeed some consternation in committee. So I just wanted to give the full body an opportunity to weigh in. So all this amendment does is clarify that school board members have to abide by the same ethics rules that all other elected officials have to apply by in the state. And I urge a yes vote.
Okay, is there further discussion on L5? Rep. Baisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is actually, generally speaking, this is an interesting bill because as a sponsor advanced in the beginning, this is a local control issue. And so it has a good argument to why not allow the local school districts, school boards, perhaps, to decide whether to compensate their school board members. I think we could all argue that is not a horrible idea. And most school districts would probably not decide to compensate their school boards, but in the larger ones that demand a lot of time, frequent public meetings, they probably would. And the argument that some folks would serve on the school board if they could afford to do so, and then this would avail them with the opportunity to do that. Those are valid arguments, and I think we should consider them. The big however in all this, the one that gives us all tremendous pause, is those folks who would, those interests who would gift members on the school board towards their influence. We don't allow that for us because it ain't right. It's an ethical issue. This addresses that, and this is the one big sticking point for me in being able to support this bill. So I understand the concept. I don't think it's a bad idea. It's a challenging idea for sure, so long as we ensure that the politics that always comes around the school boards, so that's an unfortunate thing, is politics is so involved in the school boards. This would clean it up a lot. And I think you could find a whole lot more support for this bill if we could just keep that individual politicking out of it. So I'd urge a yes vote on this amendment, because I think it's going to go a long way towards keeping this clean. And I'm afraid of why anyone would not want to keep this kind of under-the-table compensation out of school boards if they're going to be compensated in the first place. If this gets voted down, I'm really going to be scratching my head. I really think it's important that this body advance the ethics that's represented in this amendment and vote yes on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Rep. Woodrow to L5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Reps. Larson and Rep. Baisley for bringing this amendment. I do appreciate it for a couple of reasons. First, I appreciate what you're trying to do, Rep. Larson, because it gets to a very important issue, and that is ethics. And I think everyone in here agrees that ethics are important. As elected officials, we should all strive to conduct ourselves as ethically as possible, and so I do appreciate you shining a light, so to speak, on that important issue. I do ask for a no vote on this amendment for a couple of reasons. First, local governments can opt out of Amendment 41. So this amendment, by making this statutory, gets things a little messy in that regard. But second, I also oppose the amendment because, Rep. Larson, you made me go back and do something that no lawyer likes doing, and that's read. And I actually went back and I read our state constitution. I usually just sleep with it under my pillow, but I actually pulled it out and opened it up and got to look at what is referred to as Amendment 41. I think it's Article 29. And I actually read section, I think it's 6. And so what the voters did when they passed Amendment 41 is they actually said that a local school board or local board could still be elected but fall outside of Amendment 41 if they decided to compensate themselves as a per diem or reimbursement of expenses. So by making this a blanket, sort of application of Amendment 41, I think we're crossing a line that as a legislative body we really ought not to. We pass statutes. We're not here to change the Constitution without a referral to the voters. I do think that this amendment is inconsistent with what the voters decided in Amendment 41, and so for that reason I would urge a no vote.
Is there further discussion on L5? Mr. Minority Leader McKean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm confused now because, well, I guess this begs a question. I also read things, and so I'm reading it. Would school board members then be considered local government officials? So are you suggesting to me that there is a carve-out for school board members when they are only paid a per diem, as in they are actually carved out of being local government officials? This is when words start getting very confusing. So I guess my question would be either this applies or it doesn't apply. And it seems to me that should be a simple answer.
R2L5, Rep. Woodrow. Okay, Rep. Woodrow, and then we'll go to Rep. Pico.
To briefly answer the minority leader's question, they are local government officials, but they are not covered by Amendment 41. I'm not providing the carve-out. Amendment 41 provides the carve-out. We can all read it. It says right there that if you are a local government official, but you're only compensated by per diem or expenses, then you're not covered by the rest of Amendment 41. That's already in there. That's not me creating that exception. That's what the voters approved.
Okay, Rep. Pico to L5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If the bill is to add a salary to them, then that would take them out of that exception. And I'll tell you that local governments absolutely cannot opt out of 41 unless they put something equivalent in place. And that is the case in Colorado Springs, for example. We are required to have our own ethics code that pretty much mirrors 41. But if you're going to pay them, then you better have this ethics provision in place. I cannot imagine why this body would say that any government elected officials are not be held to an ethical standard. I ask for a yes vote on the amendment.
Okay, the question is L5. Is there further discussion of Amendment L5? Seeing none, the question is the passage of L5. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. No. L5 is lost. We are to the bill, House Bill 1055. Is there further discussion on House Bill 1055? Rep. Geithner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, like I said, there was some good discussion that we had in committee, specifically around this bill. And so, in fact, let me just run this amendment, then we can talk about it. So, members, I move L004 and ask that it be properly displayed.
Okay, the amendment is displayed. Go ahead, Rep. Geithner, to L4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, members, what this does is it says basically the amendment asks for the voters of the school district's approval, basically, or confirmation that that's the direction that the district wants to go. So, if you look at 1055, it gives the school board members the ability to entertain the idea, the concept, and then what this resolution does is it allows for the voters of the school districts to then affirm or other what the school board is looking to do, the local school board is looking to do. And so it just actually brings the voters in on the conversation and gives their final stamp of approval, which I think we can all agree with is a good idea, a good concept. And so that's what L004 does. And so, members, I urge a yes vote.
Okay, the question is L4. Is there further discussion on L004? Rep. Woodrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the amendment sponsor bringing this forward. We talked about this in committee. I don't think that school board member pay should be subject to the vote of the electorate. If school board members make a vote to compensate themselves, they have to stand for election before that takes effect, just like all of us do here. I don't think it would be responsible for this body to give our compensation up to the electorate. So I'd ask for a no vote.
Is there further discussion on L004? Rep. Geithner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, members, I just come back up. I wanted to address it. It escaped me before. There was a level of concern that was brought up, and it had to do with, well, there's a cost for running an election. And so I put this question on the ballot that may otherwise overly overburden a district. But if you read the amendment, it actually says that it becomes part of the next election cycle. And so I wanted to address that concern and alleviate that concern for many of the members. I mean, we're already going to have the election for school board members, which happens every 2 years. In fact, I think the only condition under which I think that there's going to be an election every time. And so knowing that there's an election every time, there isn't an additional cost to running. It's not like there's two ballots that are printed. It's just put on the same ballot. And I do think that it is appropriate. We're talking about a concept where school board members haven't been paid before. And I think this is really where the nature of the question comes down to the voters of a school district. And that is that we're already looking at a lot of things, especially when you look at the districts, when it's compensation, teacher retention, recruitment, all of these things. And to say that the district voters shouldn't have a say in whether or not school board members are paid, I think says, well, then they maybe the voters, I'm assuming, maybe this is assumption on my part, that they shouldn't also have a say in how much teachers get paid. I mean, I think a lot of us look at the profession that our teachers provide, and we realize that we're struggling to retain, we're struggling to recruit, which begs the question that maybe we aren't paying our teachers enough. And so with that, I think before we start dedicating valuable resources in terms of our tax dollars to school board members, it might be wise to look at what we're paying our teachers and to see if we can get more money there into the classroom. And so that's why I think this amendment becomes so interesting, because we're not already paying our school board members. And so we're asking to break with tradition of what Colorado has already done, and therefore also consume dollars that would otherwise go to the classroom, in theory, for now paying school board members. And so absolutely, I do believe that the voters should have a voice in this to find out if they want their tax dollars going in a different direction and not in the direction that they are already prepared to do that, and that is to sending it to classrooms, to teachers, to students, and instead diverting some of those dollars to school board members. So I think that's why it's important that we hear from the voters on this. I think the voters absolutely will know what to do within their district, and there's no cost associated with it because, well, we're already running those elections anyways. And so, members, I think this is a good amendment. It brings the taxpayer, brings the voters of the school district in on the conversation, which I think is absolutely appropriate in this case. So, members, I would urge your support on this amendment.
Okay, Representative Rich to L4.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise in support of this amendment. You know, when there is a school board election, and that's usually occurs in an odd-numbered year, it's a coordinated election, we put all kinds of questions on there. We might put them for a mill levy increase or an override to build a building or various costs. And now this is about paying school board members. And we do ask the voters when we're going to do a mill levy increase or we're going to want to override a mill levy. And there's nothing wrong with letting the voters weigh in on this as well, because this is going to take away from that money that might be used to build a building. And I'm real familiar with this because it's come up in Mesa County a few times. So I support this amendment, and I don't think it's unfriendly. I think it's just good governance to allow the voters to have a say. Thank you.
Okay, the question is L4. Is there further discussion on L004? Seeing none, all those in favor of L4, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Okay, the noes have it. L4 is lost. We are back to the bill, House Bill 1055. Is there further discussion? Rep. Geithner.
Thank you, members, and thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to move another amendment that I have as we work to try and shed some light on some of the discussion that we had in committee. And so with that, members, I move L002 and ask that it be properly displayed.
Okay, L2 is displayed. Rep. Geithner, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, members, I kind of touched on this during the last amendment. And what this amendment does is it talks about the percentage of pay that our teachers make. And this basically, sets a cap. This amendment specifically sets a cap to no more than 50% of what the lowest paid teacher in that district is making. I talked about, I guess, on the last amendment, the idea that this isn't a concept that's currently before voters, taxpayers currently, and that is the compensation of our school board members. And so as we look at what 1055 offers, which is compensation of school board members, we had some discussion in committee, and those discussions were around, well, what does a salary look like? And one of the examples that was provided was, well, maybe it's not even a salary, maybe it's a stipend. And so I drilled in a little bit more on that, and I said, okay, so a stipend, so what does a stipend look like? RTD was given as an example. I think what was offered in response to my question was about $1,000. I'm not sure if that's completely accurate or not. But aside from that, so we had some general discussion around what would compensation look like. And it was believed, I guess, by the sponsor that perhaps there would just be a stipend and it actually wouldn't even be a salary. So I think this one kind of doesn't hamstring anybody at all. I think it honestly says, okay, stipend, there's still a little bit of flexibility in the amendment, but it basically says that our teachers, we should still be looking at compensating our teachers as the priority and not looking at compensating school board members as the priority. Because that's where the tax dollars that the voters have approved, that's where they already agreed to send those dollars, was to salary, classroom, students, curriculum, all these sorts of things, and not school board members. And so I think this does a pretty good job of saying, hey, we're at least going to try and, make sure that we're still trying to prioritize those other things. But that's the purpose of L002, and I would ask for a yes vote.
Okay, the question is L2. Is there further discussion of L002? Representative Woodrow.
Yes, thank you, Representative Geithner, for bringing the amendment. I would ask for a no vote. Folks, what we're trying to do is empower local communities to make their own decisions, just as I wouldn't want the pay to be subject to the vote of the electorate. I don't think that we should be capping what a reasonable pay and compensation would be. Again, if it turns out that this opens the door to something none of us intended, I'll be the first one coming back down here to put more guardrails on it, but I would ask for a no vote.
Okay, is there further discussion on L002? Seeing none, the question is the passage of 002 to House Bill 1055. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. The noes have it. L2 is lost. We are back to the bill, House Bill 1055. Is there further discussion on 1055? Representative Geithner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so, members, we've tried to, make some good recommendations here that would honor the taxpayers, that would add another level of transparency, that might even address an ethical concern. And it's just disappointing that none of those amendments seem to have made their way onto this bill. I have concerns, and I think I've already addressed some of those, and that is that by and large, this is not a process that we currently do. And now all of a sudden we're going to make it a process, but we're not even willing to consider that the voters of the school district, upon this particular topic of compensating school board members, that they should have a voice. I realize, of course, that, elections, that's where the accountability comes back to. But at that point, maybe the damage is already done, and those dollars are otherwise already diverted out of the classroom, away from teachers, making it more difficult to compensate, making it more difficult to recruit good teachers to teach our children. And I think that's where we need to keep the priority. The priority needs to stay there, and to say that, hey, we're going to find yet another way to use those tax dollars just doesn't sit well with me. I am concerned about this. I will be a no on the bill. And it's challenging because I think to some of us and from some of my constituents that I've heard from is maybe this is what education looks like when the unions are in charge and not Coloradans. So members, I would ask for a no vote on 1055.
Is there further discussion on 1055? Rep. Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, I just want to rise in quick opposition to this bill. I do appreciate the bill sponsor, and we did have numerous discussions ahead of time. My primary concerns were threefold. First two were two of the amendments that were offered, one of them being the applicability of Amendment 41, the other being the ability of local school district voters to vote on the member pay. But then my third concern is just a more broad-based concern in that I don't think that this is the right time for us to be putting money toward people who aren't in the classroom. If you look back at education spending growth in our state over the last decade or so, up until 2017, what we've seen is a disproportionate growth in administrative, non-classroom related expenses in school boards, where teacher salaries and direct classroom related expenses have failed to keep track with that growth in administrative expenses. And this is just another item that does not have a direct in front of the students in the classroom, in the teacher's pocket nexus. And, you know, every year we come down here, I've only been here 2, I suspect for as long as I'm down here, we'll probably hear about how grossly underpaid teachers are, which I happen to agree with. And I'm not saying that this is the panacea were we to vote this bill down, that, you know, this was going to provide enough money to fix our teacher pay issue, but this is certainly something. And I just don't think that right now is the time, in the middle of this pandemic, with all that has gone on, with all of our teachers suffering and what they've gone through this year, to say, hey, you know what, we're just going to take, you know, it's just a couple $100,000 more, or maybe $1 million if it's a larger school district, that we're just going to put toward annual compensation for school board members. But that's not going to impact your salary. That's not the reason we couldn't vote for, you know, a salary increase for teachers this year. So that's my concern. That's why I'll be a no on this bill today. But I do appreciate the sponsor bringing this. I do think it's a legitimate question of local control. It was a very interesting committee hearing, and I do appreciate the openness and willingness of the sponsor to talk on this. But I do nonetheless ask for a no vote.
Okay, the question is House Bill 1055. Is there further discussion on House Bill 1055? Seeing none, all those in favor of 1055, please say yes. Yes. All those opposed say no. No. Okay, 1055 is passed. Madam Majority Leader Esgar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over House Bill 1109 till tomorrow, March 17th.
Seeing no objection, 1109 will lay over as requested by the Majority Leader. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
The House will come to order. Mr. Gregorio, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee of the Whole begs leave to report it has under consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof. Makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bill 1047 as amended, 1052 as amended, 1055, 1060 as amended, 1072 as amended, 1090 as amended, 1114 as amended, 1131 passed on second reading in order engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. 1109, 1117 laid over until 31721, returning their place on the calendar. 1103, 1179 laid over until 31921 and retaining their place on the calendar.
Representative Weissman. Thank you, Representative Weissman. You've heard the motion. There are amendments at the desk. Mr. Gregorio, please read the let's do the first Geithner amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Geithner moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee and not adopting the following Geithner Amendment L004 to House Bill 21-1055 to show that said amendment passed and that House Bill 21-1055 is amended passed.
Representative Geithner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and just wanted to make sure which one.
Oh yeah, that's
so many, yes. And so, members, yes, I move the Geithner Amendment to the Committee of the Whole, and I ask for a yes vote.
That has been properly moved and displayed. Is there further discussion on the first Geithner Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole? Seeing none, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Those participating remotely, Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Jackson votes no. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
No. Or, I'm sorry, yes. Correction, yes.
That's all right. Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Exum votes no. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
No.
Representative McLaughlin votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you... Representative Ricks is excused. Please close the machine. With 22 aye votes, 38 no votes, and 5 excused, the first Geithner Amendment to the Committee of the Whole is lost. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to the second Geithner Amendment to the
Representative Geithner moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee and not adopting the following Geithner Amendment L002 to House Bill 21-1055 to show that said amendment passed and that House Bill 1055 is amended passed.
Representative Geithner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, let me just see which one we're on, just so that I'm on the same page.
L002.
Yes. And so, members, I move the second Geithner Amendment to the Committee of the Whole and ask for a yes vote. Thank you, members.
Is there any further discussion on the second Geithner Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole? Seeing none, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Those participating remotely, Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Jackson votes no. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Exum votes no. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
No.
Representative McLaughlin votes no. Representative Lynch, Sullivan, please close the machine. With 27 aye votes, 33 no votes, and 5 excused, the second Geithner Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole is lost. Mr. Gregorio, please read the title to the third Geithner Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Geithner moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken in the committee by not adopting the following Geithner Amendment L003 to House Bill 21-1055 to show that said amendment passed and that House Bill 21-1055 is amended passed.
Representative Geithner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, I move the final Geithner Amendment to the Committee of the Whole, and I ask for a yes vote. Third time's the charm.
That has been properly moved and displayed. Is there further discussion on the third Geithner Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole? Seeing none, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Jackson votes no. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Williams, how do you vote? Yes. Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Exum votes no. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
No.
Representative McLaughlin votes no. Representative Cutter and Representative Tipper. Please close the machine. 23 aye votes, 37 no votes, and 5 excused. The third Geithner amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole is lost. Mr. Gregorio, please read the Larson amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Larson moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Geithner Amendment L005 to House Bill 21-1055 to show that said amendment passed and that House Bill 21-1055 is amended passed.
Representative Larson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for a yes vote.
Do you mind moving it?
And I move the Larson Amendment to the Committee of the Whole.
That amendment has been properly moved and it is displayed. Is there further discussion on the Larson Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole? Seeing none, Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Jackson votes no. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Sandridge votes yes. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Williams votes yes. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Exum votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Michelson Janae, please close the machine. With 31 aye votes, 30 no votes, and 4 excused, the Larson Amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole is lost. You need 33 votes. You always need 33. No matter what, you always need 33. Okay, that brings us to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Because there's no more amendments at the desk. Mr. Gregorio, please open the machine and members please vote on the report of the Committee of the Whole. Representative Jackson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Jackson votes yes. Representative Sandridge, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Sandridge votes no. Representative Williams, how do you vote?
No.
Representative Williams votes no. Representative Ricks, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Ricks votes yes. Representative Exum, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative Representative Exum votes yes. Representative McLaughlin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Representative McLaughlin votes yes. Representative Duran, Molka, and Tipper. Molka. Representative Molka. Please close the machine. With 40 aye votes, 21 no votes, and 4 excused, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. That brings us to announcements and introductions. See none, Madam. Representative Byrd.
House Finance Committee. As everybody is aware, everything that was originally scheduled to be heard Monday for committee meeting has now been moved to Wednesday. And as part of that schedule, we are laying over House Bill 1043, but we'll still plan to hear House Bill 1023, 1044, 1027, 1077. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there. I will remind you again at a later time up here at the podium. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Representative Byrd. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Similarly, for members of House State Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs, the bills that were normally scheduled for yesterday afternoon will now be heard Wednesday at 1:30 in LSBA. That includes House Bills 1082, 1041, 1070, 1038, and 1185.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. Any further announcements or introductions? Seeing none, Majority Leader Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good work today, folks. I move that the House stand in recess until later today.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess until later today.